Good evening, everybody, and welcome to session number 2 of WealthE Wednesday for July. We sit here today on the 1st of July, the start of the second half of the year, and I don't know if you feel exactly the same as I do, but in some ways, time has stood still for me this first half of the year, and in other ways, it has barreled forward to the 1st of July. For our January WealthE Wednesday, Scott led us through a goal setting and planning session and sent us back home with lots of homework and stuff that we had to do and craft. And I really hope that most of you on this call did that. Tonight, we look forward to a mid-year check-in. And Scott has very graciously agreed with some prodding and poking on my behalf to actually do his own personal mid-year review so that we can see the tools and the tips that he uses when he does that. So thank you everybody for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Thank you, Scott, for graciously accepting my invitation and leading us through this evening's session.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Lee. Yeah, this is an interesting challenge Lee has set me, and I'll explain why. So let me just get the PowerPoint ready here. And so I just got to get the right screen up for you. Where's it gone now? There it is there. Okay, let's share screens. So welcome to everyone. This is our second time using Zoom. So I must admit, I use Zoom all day long, and Zoom webinar is a little bit different. Okay. So just quickly, what we're going to be doing, as Lee's already said, is going through the mid-year review. And I'm going to sort of look at what I've done in the last 6 months and sort of where I'm at. So one of the things that, just to remind you, is that this afternoon we went through a session with Let's Get Practical. Lee, do you want to talk to a little bit, because you know we spoke quite a lot around market cycles and you know, understanding where the market is and what one should do in this current market and the type of deals we've got now and the type of deals that we've got coming. What were your sort of key takeaways if people want to listen to the recording?
Yeah, Scott, so this afternoon was a complete mind flip. For people who had not seen the property wheel, I would really suggest that you go and you watch the recording, which will be posted a little bit later tonight. But that was really mind-opening for us. So traditionally, deals now are going to change. What the market is going to present to us is going to be different. The deals that we are going to be able to have and have access to are going to change somewhat as the market changes into a more debt and distressed cycle. What this means is we're going to have access to deals that we didn't have access to in the first half of this year, and the appetite for deals is going to change to something that is not only seen by buyers as a good deal, but also as a protected deal.
Awesome. And if anyone else is online, actually, let me get the chat box open. Where's it going now? Just these things are all over the place. Okay, there, I've got it. So if there's any chats, just let me know. Cool. So what Lee asked me to do was to go through goals. So I'm not going to repeat what I went through in December. I'm just very interested, Lee, where can people find the webinar should they want to go and watch the webinar from? It was December actually that we did it, the WealthE Wednesday in December. And where's the best place for them to find that?
So for our Inner Circle members, it is within the Inner Circle on Wealth University and also within our Inner Circle WhatsApp chats and our Telegram chats. We have posted it on the Wealth Migrate YouTube channel, which I will post the link into the chat box for everyone now, and also on our various groups that we have on WhatsApp and Telegram. If you can't find it and you want to know how to access it, please just reach out to me directly. I'm sure that you all have my number and my email, but if you don't, I'm leerush@wealthmigrate.com. You're welcome to reach out to me and I'm happy to send you the link.
Brilliant, thanks Lee. So I think, you know, again, I'm not going to do a recap tonight because that's not the purpose, but I do like to show that again, I'm a visual person. And so what I do when I create my goals is I have my annual goals. I have my sort of quarterly goals. I've got a poem that I really like. I've got my mission statement, and then I put up pictures that resonate for me. And in 2013, a picture that resonated for me, I just moved to Knysna, and I had a boat, but I didn't like my boat, and I wanted another boat. And so for me, it was a case of I literally went on Google and I found this picture, and I put it up there. And it's, if I zoom in and show you, that was the picture that I literally found on Google. So, you know, I found this really uncanny. And then about 8 months later, I was now ready to go and get the boat that I wanted. And it was about November, because if you live in Knysna, South Africa, you want to be able to use your boat in the summer. There's no point in buying a boat at the end of the winter, you know, the end of the summer. So I went in November and I said, right, I'm ready to buy this boat. And I said to the guy, you know, I like this type of boat, this make of boat. And he said, listen, there's no more boats. The factory's full. And the first time you'll be able to get one's in March. And I was like, what? I'm going to miss the whole summer. Like, that's ridiculous. And he said to me, well, there's one option. We buy one boat per year that we just bring down over Christmas, and some holiday maker turns up and buys it. And so you can buy that one if you want to. And I said, okay, but I'll tell you what, give me first option. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what its colors were. He said, you cannot change a single thing. It is what it is, like it as it comes. So a week later, this boat turns up. Now remember, this is the picture of the boat that I found about 8 months later earlier on the screen. And this is the actual boat. Okay, look at the colors. It is literally almost exactly the same in terms of the color schemes. Remembering I could do nothing. Look at the pictures. Look at how the seats, the pictures. Look at the front. This is my son, by the way, in the picture. Look at the front there. It's basically exactly the same. And for me, that's the power of goals. Because when you get clear on what you want, and my son is coming to look and see the picture of himself when he was much younger. So what do you think?
I think we have one engine on the back of our boat now, and we have two now.
No, that was the picture.
Oh.
So anyway, I wanted to just start with that, and just to remind you, some of the tools that I suggested, books to read, was Think and Grow Rich, which is the book that most millionaires in the world quote as the #1 book that they've used to get wealthy. I've read this about 5 times, and I've actually listened to the entire thing when I ran Comrades. And, you know, it's something that I like to try and listen to, you know, every 3 to 4 years. And I actually realized that, you know, every time I listen to it, I'm like, crosses, I'm only doing like 30% of this. I should be doing more. So, you know, this is not a book you read once. This book here, Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. And again, I think this is an amazing book. And if you've got the eWealth pack, you know, all these books are actually in there with the links. The one thing helps you get really focused every day so that you've got time to get your stuff done. And then, as Lee's already pointed out, we had this goal setting session in December, and I spoke about goals and the impact that goals can have on your life. And the last thing that I just wanted to say around goals, and again, there's a whole lot else that I go through in the webinar, and I'm not going through it all tonight. But there's a reason Fortune 500 companies require quarterly, annual, and semi-annual plans, because they have an annual plan, and then they have quarterly reviews, and every quarter they review where they're at, and it keeps them on track. And yet, do you do it in your own life? So where Lee said to me, you know, we're halfway through the year, you should be reviewing your progress. Well, great point. You should be. And that's where you're at. In terms of just a saying my father gave me, men become what they dream big. I was actually doing a thing this morning on Mind Valley, and it was about goals, believe it or not. And it said that the majority of people are trying to achieve goals that they know they can achieve, and that you should try and fail at 50% of your goals. Now, that's quite an interesting stat because most people don't like failure. And yet that would mean that you've got hairy, audacious goals that are really going to excite you. Now, Lee, I've got a question for you, and I'm not sure if you're there. I see you've got your screen off, but actually for anyone that's online, I'd like to know if you'd like to invest in a company. Now, this company fails more than 40% of times at their goals. And so statistically, over the last 10 years, they failed more than 40% of the time at achieving their goals. And my question is, would you like to invest in that company?
So for me, the question would be, what do they do the other 60%? Because if they're only failing 40%, they must be rocking it the other 60%. And they're moving forward. They're not moving backwards. So absolutely, it's worth the gamble.
Rachel says she needs to know a little bit more. Gavin says, yes, 60% achieved. John said 60% is good enough. Well, this little company is a company called Google. And Google sets its targets both annually and quarterly, and it expects and statistically fails more than 40% of the time to achieve its goals. But the reason that it's achieved such hyper growth over the last, however long Google's been going now, nearly 20 years, is because they shoot, they literally shoot for the stars. And what's interesting is that many of the things are failures, but we've still got Gmail, we've still got YouTube, we've still got Google and all the other things. So just a little, and by the way, I heard that this morning on my Mind Valley session. So very interesting for myself. So just if you want to know more, you can either watch that recording that Lee said, or you can do the micro degree. So when you do the micro degree, step 3 is actually about plotting your journey. And I've actually explained all around SMART goals. So for your life, for your year, for the quarter, for the week, and for the day. Now, another thing I heard this morning, I got a question, and we're going to have some fun tonight. SMART goals, are they good or bad? Does anyone know what SMART stands for? So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. That's the acronym for a SMART goal. That's why people say you should do SMART goals. And so my question is, do you think it's good to have SMART goals? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based.
Absolutely, because that's the only way you can see if you've made progress.
So it's interesting. Jan said, Australia says power goals. A couple of people saying yes. Louise, Rob, Schwab, Rachel, Kim. So again, I heard this morning. This is hot off the press from my morning meditation. He said, no, they're not, because the R stands for realistic. And 50% of your goals should not be realistic. They should be audacious. So Lee was on a strategy session that we had today with the team. And I would normally have turned up and said, yeah, why don't we launch one platform in the next quarter? And then I said, well, how could we launch 10? So, it's interesting. If you aim to launch 1 and you get it right, well done. If you aim to launch 10 and you fail, you still got 5. So, just interesting, just an interesting way. So to give you a little bit of an analogy here, I just want to show you quickly. This is a really valuable exercise that Tony Robbins got me to do when I was 27 years old. And I've been doing it ever since, every single year. So you literally dream. And there's 7 areas to your life: financial, vocational, mental, family, social and travel, physical and health, and spiritual and contribution. And basically, you just dream. Like, there are no boundaries. You want a helicopter, you want to list a company, you want to be a billionaire, you want to empower 1 billion people, whatever it is. You want to climb Everest, just go wild. Okay. And by the way, I'm doing my mind power, and they call it in mind power, and I'm going to show you just now, but they call it the 3 MIQs. And this is really interesting. He calls them the 3 most important questions. So I did this exercise, so you can see my spreadsheet that I'm showing you. Am I showing? You are seeing my screen, hey? Yeah, the website.
We're seeing the website at the moment, not your spreadsheet.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But so the spreadsheet's something I've done for like I said to you, I'm 43 now. So what is that? 25 years or something, 26 years. But this 3MIQ, which I'm doing this Be Extraordinary 30-day course at the moment, it says there's 3 things you should try and write down that will make your life amazing. You should have experiences, you should have growth, and you should have contribution. And just today, if you can look at my book here, so over the last couple of days, we've been having to write down our experiences, our growth, and our contribution. I've got 2 pages, but just today, he went and he said, right, get rid of your SMART goals and highlight the ones that are audacious and, put a huge amount of energy into your spirit, but equally, you might fail. So I'll give you just a few. Climb Everest. There's a financial one. I'm not going to talk about it. There is take my friends to Necker Island for my 50th birthday. Travel first class and stay in luxury places. I'm not going to read all of them, but I want to build a company with great cash flow, multiple revenue streams, and really valuable, worth $1 billion or more. Some of the contribution ones: I want to empower 1 billion people and truly provide a system to help the 99% invest like the top 1%. I want to organize a virtual wealth movement event. You get the point. I did find it quite interesting. I wrote down, I want to climb Everest twice. It's a sign. Anyway, and so what was interesting is that a lot of people have never done this exercise here. And I've done this extensively, and then once a year at least, I try and go and reread it all. And this 3MIQ thing that I showed you is a new thing. I've never heard of this before, but I tried to redo it. And then also he asked a really interesting thing 2 days ago, where he also said, if you were homeless and you were bankrupt and you were on the street, what experiences would you want? What growth would you want? And what contribution would you want? And it's really interesting because it gives you gratitude in life that doesn't have to involve money. So just as an example, sorry, wrong book I was looking in. This is what happens when Lee gives me a project and I just want to give you really an update. But so experiences: I wake up with energy, excited for my day. I feel self-love. I journal and grateful for what I have. I can do my prime. I can breathe. I can enjoy the views I see. My growth: I spend time each day learning and growing myself. I can listen to motivational stuff. I can redo books. So even if I've got no money, I can redo the books I've actually got. I can continue to grow my own self-worth. I can know what is even happening. I can know that whatever's happening is happening for a reason. Contribution: I can respect and be present with each person I encounter. I can appreciate people. I can give lots of compliments. I can inspire people. I can mentor. The harder the story, the more inspiration it gives people. So just a couple of things I wrote down, which cost no money. So in terms of these systems, I have shared these before, and I'm not going to waste time going through them, but you've got your overall, life goals, if you want to call them that. Then effectively, you've got your SMART goals. And that's where I take those life goals and I break them down per year. And basically, I've got a daily system, a weekly system, a monthly system. So I plan out my week as to what I want to achieve in a week and how I'm going to do it and when I'm going to do it. And then you basically got the financial analysis, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is how I've done it every year for the best part of 10 years. But I was getting frustrated because I was doing all this work, and in many instances, I wasn't achieving the goals that I wanted. So on top of that, I was going and doing what's called a future vision, which is amazing. It's like where you write out what your future's about and what you want to achieve, etc. And I was going even a bit further, where you can actually, and I didn't open it up, I don't know why, but I can show you here quickly, where I would have my quarterly goals, and I'd actually go in, and that's where you can see this wheel here above, where you can actually see like effectively a wheel of life, and you can see how you're doing against, why is that thing not showing up nicely? But you can see how you're doing and which areas you're doing Again, balance is rubbish. There's no such thing as balance. And if you're focusing on one thing in your life, another part of your life is going to not be in sync. So get clear on, if you're focusing on, certain areas of your life, then you're going to be way out in other areas of your life. So these are all systems. And Lee, I know we've shared this with people, and for people part of the inner circle, I'm happy to share all the templates and everything else. However, what Lee asked me to do was not to talk about goals, because everything I shared for you, I've already shared before. And all these different systems I've already shared and are not only in the webinar that we did in December, but also in that micro degree, the 8 steps. The future vision, this is one I love because you create a story for your life. So you say, like, where do you want to be in a year's time? But then you look backwards. So you get a year's time, you look backwards on everything that happened and that you're grateful for. And it's about turning your dreams into reality. There's that great quote by, I think it was Van Gogh, I can't remember, but I think it was Van Gogh that said, I dream my painting and then I paint my dream. And this is really what it's all about. And then the vision board, I've already explained to you the vision board and how powerful it is to actually see stuff. Now, maybe I'm visual, maybe someone auditory needs to go and listen, to something, but I don't know. When I can see something, it's so much easier to achieve it. I shared with the team today, the company and where I saw it over the next 3 years. Now, maybe it's just me, and I was up till 2:30 in the morning. So no one has an excuse to have low energy tonight because I've had 4.5 hours sleep. My point being is that I was visualizing where we could go and so that I could share it with others. And then the daily routine is ultimately going to determine whether you succeed or fail. Because most people, whether they want to get wealthy or whether they want to get fit, they think it's about going on a diet or doing some amazing course or whatever. It's rubbish. It's about the daily routine that you do. And that's why we actually, when we did the goal setting thing back in December, that's when we came up with the 60-day challenge, where we started the morning routine. And we're on day 15 now. I think we're on the 4th cycle. Lee, I can't remember if it's the 3rd cycle or the 4th cycle of the 60-day challenge.
We are on our 3rd 60-day challenge. Day 15 of our 3rd 60-day challenge.
Yeah, that would make sense because we're halfway through the year and 60 times 3 is 180. So that would make sense. But so we're on the 3rd one, and I'm going to explain a little bit of something that I ramped it up a little bit in the last one. So it really comes down to tracking your progress. And it's so interesting because when I looked at my goals, I was doing all the setup and everything right at the beginning of the year. But quite frankly, if I'm honest with you, in 2019 and probably 2018 and probably 2017, I was doing a lot of this work, but I wasn't doing it properly. And there was one reason for it. Can anyone tell me what the reason was? You are very welcome to guess.
You're doing it for the wrong reasons?
Yep. Listen, there's probably a bunch of reasons, to be honest, but there's one major reason. Did not believe, time management, lack of focus, doing too much, you were not having fun, didn't check in. So they're all right, probably. But the number one thing, why did the Springboks win the Rugby World Cup? What did they have? There was the same players as the players from 2 years ago. What was the one thing that changed? So I've got confidence, I've got gees, mentor, purpose, drive, teamwork, vision. I would argue that the most successful teams and the most successful individuals have a coach. And if you look at the Springboks, there's a reason they won the World Cup. Yes, he made great choices like, appointing a new captain, but really it was the core group of players was the same core group of players. It was the coach. And that's what it's all about. So the one thing I decided to do differently, it was January this year, and my mom is a coach, and I was telling my mom, and I was saying, listen, I've had wonderful coaches, I've even been coached by Tony Robbins, I've had, Roger Hamilton, etc. I said, but it's not working at the moment. Like, I'm doing all these systems, but I'm just not getting the results. And she said, well, you know, I said, I've got two options. I can try and go and find like a new coach. Or the other option is I go back to a guy that I was working with. I started working with him in 2009. Funny enough, in the last crash, you might be noticing a pattern here, and got tremendous results. You know, it's really how we, you know, grew RPS fast, and then Wealth Migrate. And the guy's name is Richard Neft, and his company is Realty Check. Okay, and he does coaching, and Realty Check's about the science of people's strategy. So what I found really interesting is I want to share with you some things, and I don't know if Lee, I've shared these with you even. Okay, so I'm gonna have to come out of this slideshow to share this stuff with you. So the first thing Richard does is that it's very scientific, and he makes you do a test. Now I don't have time tonight to go into all the details. I'm happy to stay online later if people want to ask questions, but I'm going to try and be conscious of time. What is the time? Okay, so you do this quiz, okay? And so this is quite interesting. You can't manage what you don't measure. Okay, so for you as an individual. Now we're not talking about your company or your team. I'm talking about myself. And there's a whole bunch of breakdowns. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but basically you go and you do this this test, and there are 26 driving dynamics. So everyone's different, but there are 26 driving dynamics. So I like personal development. You might have noticed by the point of this webinar. And I like to get results. So, you know, I'm sure Lee will attest to the fact that if you ever on a meeting with me, I'm not too interested in the wah-wah chat. It's like, what's the result? What are we trying to achieve? What is the outcome? Ability utilization. I like to use my ability. I like to, you know, get things done. I like to be creative. Financial compensation is an interesting one. Don't pay me a basic. I'm not interested. I don't want to work for a basic and with a ceiling. Rather pay me nothing and let me earn $100,000 a month. Freedom of lifestyle, probably quite obvious considering I live in Neisner. Status, that was an interesting one to me. It used to be lower and it's gone up. Autonomy, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on and on and on. Okay, now what's really interesting is that this really helps you know who you are. Now, I've been doing this with Richard for 10 years, like I said. And what's interesting is you can go back to the first time I did it, which is funny enough, it was on my birthday in 2010. And you can actually see that personal development has been my number one on average for 10 years. So you can see it's been 22, 20, 22, 20, 19, 22, 19. You know, ability utilization is next. Results orientation is next. Freedom of lifestyle is next. So like Lee could safely say, if she wants to know how to get the best out of me, you know, let me do some personal development. You know, let me look, you know, use my abilities. Let me focus on results and give me freedom of lifestyle. You know, etc. You get the point. I think it's fairly, and what you can see here is some things change. You can see there's some green down the bottom here and there's some yellows here. But what you can see is over a 10-year period, you are who you are. You can't make a fish run in the desert, and you can't, you know, drive a Ferrari in the desert either. To some extent, you are who you are. Your social constructs don't change hugely. And so it's not about berating myself. You know, I would hate to be a fireman. Okay, look at it, physical challenges, running around, picking up a fire hose and being a fire, like I would hate to do that. Just by the way, my first job was a construction worker on a construction site. Probably not the right type of job for me. Financial guarantee, number 2. So again, when I fight with my board, and if any board members are listening, where they had a fixed salary for me and no way to make more money, it's like the second worst thing you could do to me. So all they basically should have done is made me do hard labor and give me a fixed salary. And then that would be jail for me. Okay, now why is this important? Okay, even predictable environment, you know, where people don't want to leave their jobs or they want security. There's nothing wrong with that. But for me, like, that's why COVID really, really affected me, because it was so predictable. It was ridiculous. Like, I knew what I was doing Monday to Sunday and it didn't change. And then the next Monday to Sunday was exactly the same. So why is this relevant? Well, I'm not going to give you all my details. You can see all the different stuff. But what Richard said to me is that, you know, if you want to get into flow, if you want to really start to, you know, feel like life is you're making progress, make sure you're doing what's good for you. Okay. And so the second thing I wanted to show you was that he does a dashboard thing. Now, if you're in black, it's like you think you're so super cool that you're actually not cool. Like you're actually in warring territory, you think you're so super cool. If you're in dark blue, you're like perfect. If you're in light blue, you're in warning. If you're in red, you're like in tension. And if you're in purple, you're like the shit's about to hit the fan. And so what's interesting is he does this test. Okay. Now, again, this one happened to only go back to 2013. But you can see there that my well-being indicator right now is actually not good. Okay, so when I did in January, I told him it wasn't good. I wasn't happy. I was not achieving my goals. So I'm being vulnerable tonight, Lee, on purpose, because when you asked me to do this, I thought, do I go with quickly do a review and put all my stuff up and say, look, this is what I've done? Or do I actually be vulnerable and say, listen, this is what I've done for years and this is what I've done differently in 2020? Because it wasn't working. You know, I was satisfied with where my life was. My expectation of where my life was is fine, and my focus on control was fine. But, you know, my satisfaction was 45. My frustration was huge, you know, high. My stress was high, and my job satisfaction was very low. Okay, and what was fascinating is that based on that, I went out and I think that there's nothing else to share here. So we then sat with my coach Richard, and we did a whole bunch of exercises. So rather than these future visions, he made me do two things. He said, right, we're going to establish a launch pad. So what were your highlights? What's your order of priority? I'm not going to read everything, okay? Like, but you can see I did the work, okay? And I, like, what do I want to do, okay? Then the next thing he made me do was, so this is after I'd done the roadmap. Then the next thing he made me do is he said, what do you want to achieve? Okay. And ironically, someone said, Hannes, with the power goals, it's the same thing. It's like, what are the top 3 power goals that you want to achieve? And so for me, it was to achieve $4 million in the business in revenue, and the timeline by the end of this year. Why did I want it and how did I want it? Money, this might make more sense to you now after everything I've said. I don't want to be an employee. I want to be able to have multiple different income streams, be able to increase my personal income, you know, be investing every month, et cetera, et cetera. And then my goal for health was to lose 12 kilos, okay? And to get back to, so for me, I like to be between 90 to 95 kilos. At the time, I was 107. So I thought, right. And then basically, we came up with a plan as to what I had to do. Exercise 5 days a week, you know, write up the plan to eat healthy, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the thing. So I now check in weekly with my coach. Okay, and we're now in February and do all this hard work. Okay, so I just want to see if there was anything else here quickly. No, I think that was everything. So then we get to, there's one other thing I wanted to share with you. So then the other thing I did in February was something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and people are going to judge me now. Sorry, no, before I show you that slide, is that when a new president starts in America, you always hear about the 100 days. And the way Richard Neft always breaks it down is stop worrying about what you want to do for the year. Stop worrying about what you want to do in the next 5 years. What are you going to do in the next 100 days? Like, how are you going to get your habits changed? How are you going to get your results? And you can see here that, you know, I just found this on the internet, but there's a, you know, pre-starts, a planning, a start, and then you got 30, 60, and the final stretch. Okay, so you know, he made me do this, which the work stuff that I've just shown you were the goals. What did I want to achieve within my 100-day period? Well, one of my experiences was I wanted to do ayahuasca. Now, I'm not going to sit here and debate whether it's good or bad for you, but it's a plant that comes out of South America, and more of the highly successful, enlightened people are doing this around the world. Everyone from Oprah Winfrey to, I can go on and on and on. And I was like, great, I want to try this. So for my birthday on the 9th of February, I went away for the weekend and did this, and it was highly enlightening. And again, I'm not going to read you all my notes, but I went away for the weekend, and it was just incredible how much clarity I got on where I wanted to go with my life, what my goals were on my, I'm sorry if I can see this. All right, show this. On my future vision, what I wanted to achieve and how I wanted to achieve it. And then what was so interesting is that all around the ayahuasca and like what I learned, I can't recommend it more. However, I would highly recommend that if you do it professionally. You know, don't do it with your mate in a parking lot. This is proper. I'm not scared to try. Certainly if things, you know, can take me to another level. Anyway, so Lee wants to know on my half-yearly review. So we get to the middle of March and it's on track. I'm doing well in my finances. I've managed to really make some material changes in the business and in my own income, which was great. I'm getting healthy. I've hired a COO, or we as a team hired a COO. So I'm moving out supposedly of operational, and I'm losing weight. I'm being healthy. And then a little virus turns up called COVID, and we all get locked away in like the middle of March. And I feel hugely sorry for myself. And I basically eat ice cream every night, and I eat whatever's in front of me, chips, cookies. We couldn't do exercise, and I was basically comfort eating and going like, sod this. We were working a little hard. Lee had us doing webinars 4 or 5 a week, you know, et cetera, and you know, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, long story short, I stand on the scale in end of May, and end of May, beginning of June, and I'm now 117.5 kilos. So rather than going from 107 to 95, I went from 107 to 117. So I kind of got my maths wrong. It was like I was back in, you know, standard 1, and I got the plus and the minus confused. And you know, financially okay, but the whole COO thing, the wheels had come off the bus. Like I was more hands-on in more meetings than I'd ever been, and I was actually really struggling to get out of bed. You know, I was just like, and energy has never been an issue. It's battling to sleep, and I was just like, wow, like what the hell is going on here? And I really started to get worried. Like, is it burnout? Is it depression? You know, is this COVID thing really getting to me? You know, whatever it is. And the good news is that we do this 60-day challenge, and I was about a week out. We finished the 160-day, and we were about to start the next 60-day, and we started on the 16th of June. And I basically said to myself, right, I'm going to do this differently. I'm not only going to do my 60-day challenge with the Prime, but I'm going to eat healthy for 60 days. There's a thing called ecometrics where I've taken my DNA, and I actually have a eating plan based on my DNA. I'm going to do exercise. I'm not going to drink for 60 days. And I'm going to really get into the personal development. So what Richard Neff said to me is, if you want to get back into flow, do what you love. And so he said, stop waking up at 8:30. And I don't know if I speak for anyone else here, but like if my first meeting was 8:30 or 9, it was like you were crawling out of bed at 8:30, having some breakfast and going straight to your meeting because you couldn't do exercise. Like life was at the, and he was like, no, wake up at 6:30 and, you know, do your exercise, do your Mind Valley. And so anyway, I signed up for Mind Valley, and I have to say I've been quite blown away by Mind Valley. So what's going on with Zoom? Like my mouse disappears and then it comes back. So I don't have Mind Valley open. So let me just open it up for you quickly. Has this been valuable so far? I don't know. I'm just talking to myself. I feel like I'm talking to a cave. So is this valuable? Lee, is this what you're expecting? Because it's not quite the half-yearly review that I wanted that I would normally do, but I wanted to show you how I'm doing it differently this year, because working with Richard Neff and checking in every week, he's holding my feet to the fire.
Absolutely. And I think with the reality of the times that we live in now, everything has changed, and there is reason to change the way you do your reviews, you look at things, and what you do to transform yourself. So everybody is coming on the chat and saying that it's inspiring, and thank you for being so very honest and raw and vulnerable with us and all of that. So we are definitely learning. And you are teaching an old dog new things from Jan. So there we go.
So it's interesting, you know, again, coming back to goals, and in that very first slide, and again, I didn't go into it tonight, but there's a thing called a RAS, your Articulated Active System. And you've probably all heard this before, but if you want to buy a Toyota, suddenly when you're driving around, you just notice Toyotas everywhere. Or if you suddenly buy a Mercedes, you notice Mercedes everywhere. That's because your RAS, your Articulated Active System, is now focusing on it, okay? Well, I was clearly looking for something to do differently. And I literally saw a Facebook ad, and I went to a Mind Valley talk, which I don't have the link here, but I'm happy to share the link on the inner circle. I think I might have done it already. And it's an upsell webinar. I want to be clear. They're upselling a course, but it's an hour-long webinar, and I really enjoyed it. It was like, wow, it's got 4 different levels of life, 4 different levels of consciousness, and it was amazing. So I went into Mind Valley, and I signed up, and I've been known to be a bit of an overachiever. So you're supposed to do 1 course per 30 days. I'm doing 3. But the point being is that I signed up for this Becoming Unrealistic. I'm taking a sleeping course, and I'm also doing this course on conscious uncoupling. And what was really interesting to me was that really forced me in the morning to do this work. On top of this, I'm still doing the prime because that was my commitment. And every morning I'm journaling and doing what I should be doing. And why is this relevant to now? And really for me, we're at the end of the half year, and I woke up this morning and it was the 1st of June. And I thought to myself, wow, we're halfway through the year. And Lee asked me to do this review. And I look at it now, and I sat with my coach yesterday, and I said, we're way behind on the $4 million. Okay, way behind. And most companies are sitting there complaining about COVID and this and that. And I came at it with a whole different approach. I was like, how could we 10x this? What we think we can do 1 of them in a quarter, or how could we do 10 of them? Okay, how can we get back on track? So why is this relevant? Well, sitting with my coach just yesterday and reviewing, my 100-day plan, because believe it or not, I was at the end of the 100 days. And in the last 2 weeks making these big changes, I said, it's clearly time to have a new 100-day. Is that I was going through it with him yesterday, and I said, look, so the $4 million for me it's the number one thing. I want to make that happen because it'll be good. I want to grow as a leader, et cetera, et cetera. And then the second thing was the health thing. Well, I'm quite chuffed actually. In the last 2 weeks, I've got more energy than I've felt I've had in a very long time. I'm sleeping well. I've lost 6.1 kilos in 2 weeks. And so like I basically said to my coach, right, I think I've got the health thing like under wraps. And then I was like, in terms of the COO and myself stepping out as operationally involved, I said, fine. However, where the stage of the business is, it ties in sort of with version number 1, where there's some really important projects now we need to be able to launch, but on the assumption we can launch, we can replicate over and over. So it's for me, it's a means to an end. Like it's to help here. And I'm telling stuff to Lee and others that are listening on the team that I didn't say today, but I don't see this as the long term, but it's a means to an end to get to the long term. So I feel like that I'm on track. And the last thing on my personal life, some of the personal stuff that I had was, I've actually executed and got a plan for that. I've moved into a new house. I'm loving the view and everything else. So when I looked at my life and from a review perspective within the half year, including financially being up, actually a good year, believe it or not, in the middle of COVID, I looked at it and I thought to myself, well, actually, if I go back to this system, and please understand, I'm not saying the system is wrong. The problem with the system, can anyone tell me what my problem was? I was doing all the work. I was doing my life goals. I was doing my annual goals. I was doing my quarterly goals. I was even doing my daily prime, which is where I think about my top 3 goals every day. There was one thing missing. What was the one thing missing? Yep, all done, Schwab. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. The coach. So that was it. And Garth, were you saying the fun aspect, being happy? I think they're all important because you want to have more fun. You want to be happy. That's why we all do it, the mental. But it was really the coach. It was having an accountability person. It was checking in. And actually it's, when you think about it, you've heard me say this before in the stats, But if you want to try achieve something on your own, you've got a less than 50% chance of achieving it. If you try and achieve it with a partner, you've got a 60% chance of achieving it. Whereas if you are part of a like-minded group, you've got a higher than 70% chance of achieving it. Now, I don't know if it's my ego, but I'm prepared to say it is my ego. Where I said on the 60-day challenge, I'm going to do the prime for 60 days. I'm going to eat healthy for 60 days. I'm not going to drink for 60 days. I'm going to do exercise for 60 days. And every day we check in. I don't know if anyone else has a similar feeling to me, but some days you might not feel like it. But I'm not going to let myself down in and amongst 40 to 50 people. And so between Richard Neft as the coach and to the 60-day group as an accountability group, it's making a material difference in terms of where we're at. And I'm feeling it. I don't know if other people are noticing it, but I'm just feeling it. I've got so much more energy. So, Lee, from my perspective, that's probably all that I had to share today. In terms of a review, the last thing that I would say, which is not a positive comment, and it is a positive comment, all in the same word, is that at a financial level, I had someone that was literally tracking all my financials. So every single month, I get a report. I don't know why this mouse is disappearing, but every single month I get a report. So if you go to March, and I get my full recon and my breakdown in terms of all the different what is spent each month. You can see my cash flow analysis, etc. So I get this every single month, but it wasn't really working. So if I break down what the money was being spent on groceries and budgets to actuals and everything, so I run it just like a company. Okay, but what I realized again was that I had the data, but we weren't using it properly. And equally, there were a bunch of things, often in life, they say that accountants generally have the worst books and lawyers tend to not look after their own legal stuff, etc. Well, it was the same for me, where I'm so busy that I wasn't looking after some of the important personal stuff that I had to get sorted, things like tax and offshore structures and whatever. And so anyway, I'd worked with someone for 10 years, and I'm a big puppy when it comes to saying goodbye to people. But finally, in the middle of COVID, I made that change, and I've changed from one person to another. And it's equally made such a difference, because all these big rocks that were outstanding are now done or being done. And the last thing that I would say, and I don't know if people are interested in this. Yep, I can. Is that we use Trello as a project management tool, and it's free, by the way. And so we use Trello. And I basically got, you can use it on your laptop and on your phone. And I basically got all the stuff that I need to do. And then I've also got one called Personal Finance, and all the stuff that needs to be there and who's doing it and how's it happening and tax and whatever. And I'm not going to leave us on there for too long. But the point being is that I just feel like I'm making progress. And if you come back to Richard Neft, results orientation, what he said to me yesterday when I spoke about my new 100-day plan and the fact that I'm feeling overwhelmed and there's a lot going on in business and, trying to get to the $4 million when you're behind target halfway through. And he said, listen, do your daily practices, win on a daily basis, and winning, begets, Ken Williams says, willing begets momentum. And it's just interesting that if all these different parts of your life are starting to get momentum and roll, I feel right now that I'm going to look back on COVID as one of the most pivotal, influential moments of my life where I used it to go to the next level. And so, Lee, that's my review for the quarter, for the half year.
Thank you very much, Scott. That was not what we expected. I don't think it's what anyone thought they were coming to hear. And yet, in the same way, it was refreshing and raw and personal and exactly what we needed. Because let's face it, everything about COVID and the times that we are sitting in now is not normal. And I just wonder if I can pose the question to you and say, do you think you would have had the same pivotal moments in your life and been forced into the shift that you find yourself in now if you hadn't been faced with COVID?
No, because I think life would have continued and I would have been busy. So, you know, you're busy with work, and I at the end of March, I was due to take a holiday. So I really worked hard in February and March. We had events all around the country, and I did so many events. And my logic was, don't worry, I'll have a week's holiday, and I'll rest and relax and see my friends and whatever. And then COVID took that away from me. And the real problem in April and May and then June was that I didn't see how I could have a holiday. And there was too much going on in business. And on that basis, like, I didn't see how I could rest or I could have any downtime. And that's where it started feeling to some extent hopeless, where it was like, well, like, when's it going to change? And you saw what I feel about, freedom of lifestyle and pattern, the same thing. So it really forced me to make some hard decisions. And then equally, it also made some decisions easy, because, when you're traveling and you're meeting clients and you're meeting friends and whatever, it's much more difficult, like, to not have a beer and whatever. Now it's like, well, we're not going out, you're not socializing. If you're ever going to do 60 days healthy, now's the time to do it. I think it's pivotal, and I think it's caused us all to review different things and what's important to us, and I think it's exciting. Tony Robbins is doing. I was showing someone else this. I don't know if I shared this with you even, Lee, but Tony Robbins is doing a course at the moment. I was showing it to someone, the Comeback Challenge. You can go and check out his page. There's only 300,000 people signed up to it. And I was watching one live, and there were 280,000 people live, and there's 480,000 people that watched the first recording. And the world's changed so much. If we think we're going to fly around the world and go and sit in front of 40 people at a breakfast, like, it's not going to happen anymore. And that's actually quite exciting in terms of what's possible. And that really relates to where we're going in life from an investment perspective, because by changing some of my own finances, I'm going to be able to start investing again, which I, having the discipline to invest again, which is awesome. I moved my first money onto the new platform, which is, I did to test, and it was brilliant. And what's so interesting for me is that, this, Lee, and again, I'm not going to repeat what we spoke about this morning, but we've got some very exciting stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks around diversification. And I'm starting to prepare for that. I'm starting to prepare to move money and get ready and invest again, which I haven't done for a long time, And so, yeah, it's been positive. It's a long answer to your question, but I believe, like anything in life, when you're experiencing pain, you can see it as a problem or you can see it as an opportunity, and you get to choose.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate that. Are there any questions that anyone would like to ask Scott? We've got a few more minutes. If there's anything, I'm going to scroll through now and see.
Just by the way, and tonight's not the night for it, but as it is WealthE Wednesday, we do have this product coming up, the Wealth Diversification product, where you can invest in multiple assets. We've got a distressed opportunity, a distressed medical opportunity. It's not finalized, but we're talking to the partner at the moment, where they're looking to go into America, raise $100 million, effectively have a war chest, go and buy distressed medical opportunities, 70% of them to be existing income producing assets, 30% to be, new build projects that are halfway through or whatever. And then roll that capital up and actually list on the New York Stock Exchange as a medical REIT. The founder's putting in $10 million. We've got the opportunity to come in. I've asked for a minimum of $1 million, but we could go as high as $10 million on it, because I'm really interested in the opportunity myself. And then when the fund REITs, that's what happens when you have 4.5 hours sleep. When the REIT lists, you'll get it at a 20% discount to the listing price. So it is attractive to me. We've got the UK aged care closed. and we've got another one that we're in due diligence at the moment on. And just by the way, we did some stuff today on trends, and aged care and healthcare are literally like in the top 2 trends. And then, you know, this is the future we see, where you'll have different products. We've got a structured note coming out from Credit Suisse that is literally 9% cash on cash in pounds. And then we've got the opportunity if people want to participate in investing in the company, this company that you're hearing from, Migrate. And you can either do a convertible debt option where you earn a 6% cash on cash return, or you can do an equity option, which is where you buy the equity directly at a bigger discount price, but you don't earn the cash discount. So this is all going to be going live in the next week or two, which I'm very excited about, which is why I'm getting my money ready. And then the blended product allows people to participate in all 4 all at the same time. So while we're looking through the questions, I just wanted to mention that, Lee, there is a link, if you wouldn't mind, Lee, putting it in there. People, it's just a landing page at the moment if people are interested and want to understand a bit more. I'm just seeing, I have been sort of watching the comments. It doesn't matter if you fail. What matters is how you grow in order to reach your goal. Perfect. I agree with all the comments here. I'm going to see if there's any. What is the name of the eating plan? So I'll show you quickly. It is called Ecometrics, I think. Where's it gone now? Sure. No, I certainly can't find it. Oh, sorry. Ecometrics. It's metabolic balance. So this is what it's all about. And if I search quickly for mine, I don't know why mine's not coming up, but metabolic. What I like about it is they go and do a DNA on you. So this is my plan. It's mine. It's not Lee's. It's not my son's. It's mine. And you literally go down to what you can or can't eat. There's 4 different phases, and then all the different foods that you should have, which are good for you. So a classic example for me was I used to eat eggs in the morning, and you know, I thought that was good for me, and it's not. I shouldn't even eat eggs, and I certainly shouldn't eat them in the morning. And then down to specifically what you should eat and everything based on your DNA. So yeah, it's called metabolic balance. It's from Germany. And it's got a higher than 70% accuracy, where people don't, it's not a diet, you don't lose weight, it's a lifestyle.
We've got a comment from Gavin saying that it's good to see that you are part human. And I think everyone agrees with that one, Scott. Further up in the comments, there was also that it takes hard work to be a rock star, and you're definitely the rock star here tonight for sharing and being so vulnerable. Thank you to everyone for all your comments. And your queries that have come in, to all of those who have shared personally with Scott on the chat about their vulnerability and the places that they've been during COVID. Thank you very much for trusting us with that. We do really appreciate it. So if there's anything else that you'd like to know, or any other comments that you have surrounding this, please do reach out to us. And if you'd like more information around the wealth diversification portfolio, please reach out to myself, and I can put you in touch with one of our wealth consultants who will gladly spend some time running through it with you and explaining all the details and why we are so excited about what is happening within the next couple of weeks. So Scott, thank you for your time. For being there with us once again for the last hour, and to everyone who's been online, we really do appreciate Terry, it's called the metabolic balance.
A metabolic
diet.
balance.
Yeah, metabolic balance diet. Scott has just brought up a slide of our 3 wealth consultants, so please feel free to reach out to them or to myself, as I said. But thank you very much for spending the last hour with us. We do appreciate it, and we look forward to sharing with you next month on WealthE Wednesday.
And I think, Lee, my final comment for everyone is that you know, one of the reasons we created the inner circle is exactly for this. so that we can inspire each other, we can share, we can learn, we can grow together. And you know, it's an annual thing that we're part of. We've got WhatsApp groups, etc. And really that is the intention. Like, how can we hold each other's feet to the fire? And I look forward to a future. We're not ready to launch it yet. We don't have the manpower, but I look forward to a future where we've got investment circles, and you know, people are holding each other's feet to the fire, and you're learning and investing together. And you know, you're not just doing a 60-day challenge in terms of, you know, your health and mental, etc., but you may be doing a 5-year challenge in terms of getting yourself to a financial goal, etc. Because it's incredible what you can achieve when you're part of a like-minded community. So that's my request, my comment. My request is that if people find value in these WealthE Wednesdays, they actually take a hell of a lot of time to prepare, because Lee generally goes, "Hey, what's a topic you haven't spoken on? And why don't you give us a presentation on that?" Which basically means I have to start from scratch. Whereas it was like, "Hey, what did you do?" You know, and I could just copy it. So, you know, I think the point being is that, you know, if there are things that people want, I mean, today we sort of ad-libbed a little bit in terms of market cycles. And actually I went and did, you know, some research on it, and it reminded me back to my university years. And I actually think that today was a very powerful webinar at lunchtime around market cycles. You know, if you really want to understand property, it's the stuff I learned at university, both at honors and masters. It's the theoretical stuff, but you need to be able to know how to marry together the theoretical and practical. And I think what Lee and I are always looking for is, how can we add more value? You know, the half-yearly review, does that add value to people? You know, who knows? But maybe there's other things that add more value. And so, you know, please give us feedback, because we don't want this to be a one-way communication. We want it to be a two-way community communication, because we all here to learn, grow, and inspire people together. And then lastly, if you do find value in this, please share it with others. You know, we're here tonight, we're not earning anything, we're literally giving this stuff away for free. I need to go now and put my son to bed. Why do we do it? We're passionate about it. I'm passionate, and Lee is passionate about inspiring others and educating others and giving them the knowledge. And you know, whether we've got, you know, 100 people online or 1,000 people online doesn't make any difference, except for the fact that we can make a meaningful difference in 900 people more's life. So that's my request to you. How do we go out and let more people know about it and get them involved? So that's all from me, Lee. Thank you very much. And thanks to everyone who has turned up. I've loved the energy tonight. It makes a big difference when people are posting and everything else. Otherwise, it feels like you're talking into a cave.
Thanks very much, Scott, and thanks to everyone. I did see that there were quite a few questions or queries with people saying, please can we have the recording from the lunchtime session? We will be downloading that and sharing that tomorrow, so I will make sure that all of you get a copy of the lunchtime recording and this recording. But thank you very much again for joining us. Have a great evening, and we'll see you along the way. Bye, everybody.
Well, thanks. I'm just reading through all the comments here. Have a good evening. Cheers.
Bye.